Greetings. Next video. Learn React for free on Scrimba. Progress was made on the Create React app on my local build on the last vid. So that was good. Very long-winded, the last one. So hopefully let's get this going a bit quicker. I have skipped lesson 21, quick mental outline of project, and wasn't any point in videoing it because it was basically Bob going through a mock-up, a Figma mock-up, and splitting it up into divs. It wasn't anything groundbreaking. It wasn't really related to React, so I fired that off. Watched it anyway. So let's move on to the next lesson, which is a project setup. As you can see, so without further ado, let's get cracking. Away we go, Bobby boy.
Let's start by getting some of the project setup out of the way. I've written some step-by-step instructions here in the challenge. It is going to be a little bit more involved because we're creating everything completely from scratch, or almost completely from scratch. So your challenge is to create a components folder, and this components folder is going to have two files in it, the navbar.js file and the main.js file. For now, they should just render an H1 that says something like navbar goes here and main section here. Then I want you to create an app component, which will be outside of the components folder, and have the app component render the navbar and main components that you just created. Then inside of this file, the index.js, you will import the app component and then use React DOM.render to render that. The last step is to go and get the enter Google font, specifically with the weights of 400, 600, and 700. Once you've selected those font weights, you should see a series of link tags that you can use to put inside of our index.html. Make sure to put them above style.css so that we can reference them in style.css. And if you haven't used Google Fonts before, this one might take a little bit of extra research outside of Scrimba here to learn more about. But I know that you can do it. Fortunately, Google Fonts makes it relatively easy. Just know that you can ignore the @import or any npm options it talks about for installing this font. Remember, we're not dealing with any kind of styling right now. So by the end of this challenge, you'll just have a basic white page that just shows navbar here and main section here or something like that. So pause now and work on this challenge.
Work on this challenge. Okay, right. So we're back in Scrimba again, apart from my local environment. Okay, right, create a components folder. New folder, components. Can't see the dialog. It's popped up. There you go. See it there. Create the following components in separate files in the components folder. In each one, just render a H1 with the name of the component, e.g. return navbar goes here, navbar. Right, so we want a file called navbar. Yes. Use JSX. They're not. Right, well, that needs to be in there. Okay. New file. Again, there's a dialog popping up you can't see. In JS. That's the top bit. Is that, and the main's this bit. It's kind of what he was going on about in the quick mental outline project that I didn't bother going through. Or didn't stream. Right, next step, create an app component outside of the components file, sibling to the index.js. Hang on a minute. There's no bar. That's there. Create an app component outside the components folder, sibling to the. What does that mean? Have app, render the navbar, and main components. Hang on a minute. There's no bar. That's there. Create an app component outside the components folder, sibling to the. What does that mean? Have app, render the navbar and main components. Hang on a minute. There's no bar. That's there. Create an app component outside the components folder, sibling to the index.js. Should index be in there? Don't think it should be, should it? Or should it? Let's just skip back. No, it shouldn't. Nope. Good thing about Scrimba, it's good this, isn't it? Saves your progress. So if you skip back in the video, it doesn't lose what you've done. What will they think of next? What a time to be alive. Right. Okay, so I guess we don't want to use index.js because it's just got instructions in. So create an app component. Let's just app.js then, I guess. Why not? Okay. Have this app render the navbar and the main components. Okay. So starting off, we need import forgotten what all the on the syntax of all this stuff now. Clearly not right. I've got it in my local build. Right, so that should be caps. The wrong way around. Should be this. I think. That said, you can just put anything in there. It doesn't matter. Oh, won't. That's childish. Right. That's that bit. That's the setup. Create an app component. Have the app just render the nav bar and the main components. Okay. And function. Turn. Do you want to return? I don't think you do you? So all it was then root, don't you? Document element by ID. Yeah. What's this? Can't remember. This is why you need to do this regularly. going to have to Google it. What a thicko I am. It's at times like this you think, why am I bothering? React DOM render function takes two arguments, HTML code and HTML element. The purpose of the function is to display the code inside the specified element, which I have done. I've actually just found this from W3C Schools. What have I not done right? What have I not done right? Create an app component outside the components folder. Have app render the nav bar. And main components, that's what I'm trying to do. Copy. Let's see if it works in here. Of course, you're not going to let me copy and paste. Of course. Come on. All right. Right, DOM not defined. Okay. I don't know what the fuck's going on. I have to see what
makes it relatively easy. Just know that you can ignore the at
whatever. You have to show me.
and inside components. We can create a new file for main.js and navbar.js. As always, we will import React from React, and we will export default our navbar function, our navbar component. And for now, this is just going to return an H1 that, let's have it say navbar component. Then our main.js is going to be almost identical. We'll just copy this, paste it in, and instead of navbar component, we'll say main component, and we'll call this element the main element. Okay, I'll hit save. This is just going to bring up my preview window, but that's still empty. So I need to create a new file called app.js. And inside of app.js, again, we'll import React from React.
Did notice it's called the file names by capital letters. Does that matter? Right, this is the bit I was stuck on anyway.
We'll also import our navbar component from /components/navbar. And we'll do the same thing for main. So I'll just duplicate that line and change navbar to main. Then this app component, we will export directly here with export default function app. And we will just have this return. Well, we want our navbar to be in here. So we'll say navbar, and we want our main component to be in here. But I want you to think for a second, what's wrong with the way that I've done this? We can see there's a syntax error. So what's wrong with the way that I've set this up?
Needs to be wrapped in a parent element.
Inside of components, we can only return a single element. That element can have children elements, but right now we're trying to have two sort of side-by-side components. So what we need to do is wrap those in some kind of container like a div. So I'll move this div around and indent those. If you remember from the last screencast, we talked about how this would probably just be set up as a container. So we'll give it a class name of container. We're not going to deal with any styling now, but I might as well add that class name since I know I'm going to need it. Okay, let's go check out our challenge and see where we are so far. So I created a components folder. I created the navbar and main components already. I created my app component, which is rendering the navbar and main components. So here we are. Let's import and render the app component.
Yeah, but did that work? No, it didn't. It's quite worrying that I've forgotten loads of this importing stuff as well and exporting. Let's look at my learning curriculum spreadsheet. When did I do these? Did custom components on the 6th of May. The 20th. That's 14 days ago and forgotten, which you probably would do in 14 days. So I need to be doing these lessons near close together. I think it's just not sticking.
I know I'm going to need it. Okay, let's go check out our challenge and see where we are so far. So I created a components folder. I created the navbar and main components already. I created my app component, which is rendering the navbar and main components. So here we are. Let's import and render the app component here. I will import app from /app. Oh, and I am going to be using some JSX syntax. So I also need to import React from React. And in our index.js, I will also be using React DOM. So I need to import React DOM from React DOM. And then I'll use React DOM.render to render my app component, which I just imported. And we're going to put it inside of the element with the ID of root. So we'll use document.getElement by ID root. And let's hit save and see if we get our elements showing up on the page. Awesome. Navbar component, main component, just like we expected. Okay, so that completes this part of the challenge. And then the last thing was to go to Google Fonts to get the inter font. Hopefully this wasn't too terribly tricky. Going to Google Fonts will give you a couple link elements. So I'm just going in back and restudy. Okay, let's jump into maybe something a little more fun, and that is adding some actual styling and elements to our project. But before we move on, I wanted to give you one more opportunity to access the Figma design file. We talked about this much earlier in this section, but since it's been a while, I figured this would be a good reminder. If you click on the screenshot here, it will take you to the Figma file where you can get access to the design elements for this, like the colors, the spacing, the fonts, and everything like that. When you click on this link, it will take you to a shared version of this. However, if you'd like, you can avoid seeing every.
Already done that. That was project setup involving a lot of importing and exporting of components, which I've forgotten how to do, which is pretty demoralizing. Where do we go from here? I'm going on holiday for a week tomorrow on Monday. So do I sack the whole thing off and start again, or take my laptop and do an hour a day? I'll probably do that. What I think I need to do is go back over the custom components, which were lessons 13 and 14. Because an organizing component, lesson 18, because setting up the local environment and create React apps took up a lot of time. So to get back on track, I'm going to do 13, 14, 15 again, I think. Yep. So it's in my muscle memory. I might actually do it on a local build. Right. That was lesson 22. Over and out.